Hello, everybody. It's Andrew Field here, and sorry for not updating you in a while, but here's all the news that has happened since my last video. Part of New Orleans was flooded. A major blackout happened in Manhattan, New York. A research firm found that the U.S. national team captain Megan Rapinoe could have beaten Trump in 2020, 42 to 41%. Trump dissed Rapinoe, and her girlfriend stuck up for her. Rapinoe said she would not go to the White House. Rapinoe said Trump was excluding people. The NYPD was investigating a possible hate crime against Rapinoe with slurs on posters of her. Senator Chuck Schumer said Rapinoe agreed to meet Congress to celebrate the World Cup being won by the U.S. women's team. Pompeo bypassed Congress approval of a weapons sale with national security emergency with Iran. And this weapons sale was with Saudi Arabia. The House approved amendment for Trump to have congressional approval before striking Iran. The U.S. shot down an Iranian drone in defensive action. The House approves legislation to block Trump's $8.1 billion arms deal with Saudi Arabia. It was a bipartisan agreement. Most Republicans voiced agreement with the sale because it protects surrounding countries from Iran. The White House plans to veto. Um, Saudi Arabia is questioned over the Khashoggi murder and Saudi-led bombing campaign in Yemen. Like of whether it would be a good idea. Seemingly, it wouldn't be a good idea. They're saying to give Saudi Arabia weapons after the things that they've done, which are questionable. While meeting with Pakistan's leader, Trump said he could wipe Afghanistan off the face of the earth, but he doesn't want to kill 10 million people. He said the 4 congresswomen are bad for our country. We'll get to that after. Protests are going on in Puerto Rico um, for wanting their governor out, and I think Puerto Rico's governor resigned. Trump thinks their governor is bad, and um, he said that he was the best thing for the island, which was definitely false. Big news for Great Britain because Boris Johnson just became their new prime minister. He wants to leave Brexit by October 31st, and people are worried that it might be like Donald Trump. The United Kingdom ambassador to the U.S., Kim DeRoche, resigned after leaked audio showed or um, of the ambassador criticizing Trump. Trump said he'd no longer work with him anyway. He attacked the ambassador and called May a fool for not taking his Brexit plan. Boris Johnson did not criticize Trump and refused to say he would keep Mr. Roach at his post in a televised debate. NATO is in its biggest crisis in decades because Turkey is buying anti-aircraft weapons from Russia, and they're a member of NATO. U.S. Stops a fighter jet sale to Turkey. Turkey and Greece block Russia from the Mediterranean Sea. Turkey is a pathway to the Middle East, and Asia has two U.S. Air um, two U.S. Air Force bases. Russia may have learned about the F-35 systems. Turkish President Erdogan is helping Russia undermine NATO. In other news, alcohol tainted with methanol was what killed 19 in Costa Rica. President Trump says he would do an executive order to see the amount of non-U.S. citizens in the U.S. Says it will be far more accurate than the 2020 census. He's just saying that because he failed getting it on the census, the citizenship question. Trump gutted programs aimed at detecting weapons of mass destruction, which is bad news. Trump officials want to slash refugee admissions to 0 next year. Trump was selling 10 packs of straws, says liberal paper straws don't work. That's his words. Is replacing John Ratcliffe from Dan Coats as top intelligence official. The Supreme Court allows Trump to use $2.5 billion in Pentagon funds to build his border wall. Vice President Mike Pence went to detention centers in Texas with cameras to ask the kids if they were being treated okay. Trump has set this up to try to take down critics and reports of the conditions of his detention centers. Robert Mueller testified to the House about the Mueller report for 7 hours. The Justice Department told Mueller to only talk about the report. They're trying to limit his testimony. Democrats point out instances in the report that underline obstruction of justice. And Democrats thank him for his service and treat him with respect, whereas some, but not all, of the Republicans cut Mueller off and are disgraceful to him. A Republican mentions a bias of Hillary Clinton from Mueller's team. Mueller says that he didn't ask political affiliation when hiring members, and that over the 25 years he never needed to. After the House session with Mueller, Representative Elijah Cummings, a Democrat from Maryland, said how important the session was to inform the American people about the report. It was a great speech, I thought. I watched the speech, and he also talked about the conditions of the southern border. In response, Trump tweeted that Baltimore was a filthy, rat-infested mess, and also said no human would want to live there. The Baltimore Sun responds with, "Better to have rats than to be one," says Trump is also to blame for Baltimore's faults. Shortly before Trump's tweet, Fox News compared Baltimore's impoverished areas to the border camps, giving him motivation for his tweet. The Baltimore Sun says the duel with Cummings was a political ploy to attack another member of color. CNN anchor Victor Blackwell defended the city he grew up in. Pelosi and House Democrats defended Cummings. I thought the Baltimore Sun had a great response, and Baltimore's a majority black district, so another instance of Trump sending remarks that could be racist to the city of Baltimore. Trump spoke at a Teen Student Action Summit with his racist young adult supporters. They cheered when he said they would throw Clinton in jail, Hillary Clinton, and he would retire if he got a good story. Now to another big story. Trump calls out racist remarks against 4 Democrat congresswomen. House calls his comments racist. 4 Republicans voted. It was officially condemning his racist remarks. And I wanted to give credit to the 4 Republicans that actually voted, saying his comments were racist: Mr. Upton, Miss Brooks, Mr. Fitzpatrick, and Mr. Hurden. It was the first time a president was censured since 1912. Trump praises Republicans for not voting for it 187 to 4 because Republicans have no backbone. Senator Lindsey Graham joins the attack on the Congresswoman. And by the way, the attack, to be more specific, was telling the Congresswomen that are a part of our government that if they didn't like the way things were going, that they should go back to the horrible countries they came from. That's what he was saying. Stephen Miller says racism shouldn't be a problem because he's a racist. He doubled down on his attack at a press conference and told reporters to be quiet. Republicans dodged the Trump racist question. Nancy Pelosi calls out Trump, I love her for saying this, for making America white again. House wanted to vote to say if Trump's comments were racist, and they did. Republicans said they couldn't do that. Eric Swalwell says Trump's comments are racist. He was a presidential candidate that dropped out. Chaos ensues in the House between Democrats and Republicans. Trump supporters had a chant in his rally saying, "Send her back." Ivanka and Melania told him to stop. When a reporter asked about it, he said, "Fake news," because he's Trump. And congressional Republicans told the VP the chant was wrong. Trump said he didn't like the chant, maybe because his family didn't like the chant. And he obviously did because he supported the chant and, was calling out these racist remarks to them, so his supporters wanted to be racist too. Vice President Pence said Trump and him didn't like the chant, and he's a horrible vice president, but he's just gonna back up for him and say that he didn't like the chant, but it's just so stupid. I'm sure Pence knows that he like started the chant in the first place. So, Jeffrey Epstein, a millionaire who owns a private island, was accused of sexually trafficking minors and is in jail. They had a lot of evidence against him, like photographs and witnesses, and he tried to hide it with a paper shredder and a carpenter tile extractor. Epstein has been creepy with girls for decades. He violated norms with girls teaching at school Dalton. Epstein was friends with Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. Trump separates himself from Epstein. I think Epstein is jailed. Trump is undoing decades of nuclear arms treaties with Iran and Russia. It could lead to an arms race with Russia, and it would be harder to know the other side's weapons. We must save the INF and START treaties. John Bolton seems to be pulling America out of deals that constrain America. He doesn't want to have these nuclear treaties because it seems like all he cares about is war. And John Bolton is a horrible advisor that also wanted the Iraq war, and he's just a guy that wants war. And of course, Trump's an idiot, so he pointed him back. But he doesn't seem to be liking him after what he's been doing with Iran. So that's good, at least. The second round of Democratic debates will take place tomorrow, July 30th, and July 31st in Detroit. 20 candidates qualified, and like the last time, 10 candidates will debate each night. Like I said, Swalwell dropped out, and Steve Bullock, who did not make the debate in Miami, made this one. Some celebrities are picking candidates, like Cardi B is saying she wants Bernie. Ryan Reynolds wants Warren. Some in France are trying to get Bernie to win. And something I learned recently was that televoting is a part of the presidential race. So a way that some of the people are going to vote is phone calls. By 2050, 17 major cities are very likely to have different weather from climate change, being hotter and drier, which is not good news. The Midwest and Northeast U.S. dealt with heat waves. The U.S. has too many fossil fuel power plants to meet climate goals. The 50th anniversary of the moon landing happened. Teachers are suing the U.S. over student loans that weren't forgiven. Children are more likely to make parents happy. A study finds a face app makes you look older is very popular. It has privacy issues like similar apps. 2020 candidates are told to stay away from FaceApp because it was developed by Russians, but the servers are based in the US. The House killed a vote to start the impeachment process. A producer stopped Trump from making a race war on the season of The Apprentice in 2005. I found that fact, and it just shows how long Trump's racism has been going on for. Equifax has paid millions of Americans over the data breach. More than 1 million people on Facebook signed up to storm Area 51. The Air Force issued a warning not to storm Area 51. It seems like a joke, but some people are still going, supposedly. The 9/11 Compensation Fund bill passed the Senate, and Trump signed the bill into law. That gives 9/11 responders being cared for until 2092. It was something that needed to be done because these were the people that rushed into the buildings to try to save as many people as they could, and they got injured for it. So when we say never forget, we really should never forget these people, and I'm sorry it took them so long, but thankfully Congress got its mind in check and got this passed. Trump had a good speech about it, and he mourned the 3 that died and 16 injured in a California shooting at a festival. The shooter was killed also, thankfully. Well, actually, I mean, it's good that the shooter was stopped, but in my opinion, I think, it'd be better. I know if you have the chance to kill them, they're probably going to kill the shooters, but they should be executed for their crimes. But either way, he's dead. There's Arctic wildfires. A top NRA member walks away amid turmoil. 2 teens accuse each other of killing a cop in Rome. A 16-year-old wins $3 million from a Fortnite tournament. The rate of divorce for people aged over 50 has doubled since 1990. Divorce is destroying finances of the elderly. Authorities look for a man who killed a bald eagle, and I just learned it was killing a bald eagle is a federal crime. Avengers Endgame beats Avatar box records. A deleted scene that should have been in the movie had Avengers kneel for Tony. A gamer girl sold out jars of her bathwater. Goats can tell each other's emotions by their voices. And Mitch McConnell, who is a horrible leader for the Senate, is under fire for blocking multiple election security bills, like sticking up for Trump. And that's all of the news over the past couple weeks. Thank you guys for sticking with me. I'd really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed the video. And I will see you all in the next video. Peace out, guys.